Hi, Patrick Peace here. Good morning. Wednesday, October 7th, 2020. I'm going to do a quick review on the latest Joe Rogan podcast. It's become a bit of a fun hobby for me. Um, I've been watching his podcast for years, and since he started in his new studio, I've been making a little blurb on each one. This week he had William Keith Campbell on the podcast. He's a social psychologist. It's funny because Joe introduced the podcast by trying to talk about COVID testing, but it seemed like Campbell diverted the conversation into a different direction. Campbell is talking about his book, The New Science of Narcissism, and they start with casual banter. The cadence of this program was very good. It's the first time in his new studio that I didn't amplify the speed. It just had a nice, friendly atmosphere to it, so I just let it play in the background while I was working on something and listen, and once in a while I'd take some notes. So he divides narcissism into three different types, and the thing that I found about this presentation that he gave was that we all, and he mentions it in the introduction as well, that we all suffer from a certain level of narcissism, right? And there's the first one is personality type high or low, and the second is a vulnerable, insecure, depressed kind, and then the last one could be the overblown, the NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, where it causes impairment in your relationships, poor decisions, over investing in something. I definitely have a lot of these qualities that they talk about. Not all of them, but quite a few. To put me in a I think it's just narcissism is the asshole factor. It's everybody takes a turn at being the asshole, and sometimes it's your turn. I think it's just a description of human behavior. That you could call narcissism negative attitude. It's a very broad term. The way that he's used it, bad attitude is narcissism, right? Grandiose narcissism. And then depending on how badly it affects you, because as they say, somebody can be narcissistic and be highly functioning and it's working for them, and they end up being the boss and whatsoever. So narcissism, the word, is a very vague term that can be very broad. And I see that a lot today. You see all these memes about narcissism and narcissism this, narcissism that. Really, you can replace the word narcissism with human behavior, human attitude, bad attitude, right? Destructive attitude. And then they asked the question, is narcissism universal? Definitely a podcast worth listening to. It talked about using jiu-jitsu to try and defeat the ego, and they tried to they touched a little bit on the self-consciousness topic, the singularity, and whether there's a soul, and I thought that was good. I wish they would have explored that topic a little more. They talk about social media narcissism, the Instagram narcissism. They did a shout out for TikTok, and they kept kind of increasing the level of how bad narcissism is. And the crazy thing is, eventually they introduce a topic on a movie, and I don't really want to say the name of the movie because it's a really horrifically violent with no redeeming value to the character. The particular character played by Javier Bardem or whatever his name is. I don't want to mention the movie because I've seen it and I don't believe it has any redeeming value. It gives an exaggerated level of evil in the human. Not that that's not a possible level of evil in the human. Of course it is. However, just to the nakedness with which it shows the psychotic evil behavior of the character in the movie, with no redemptive qualities whatsoever, I have to reject it for that. I've experienced worse than what is portrayed in there, and I know that the the level that things can happen in this reality that we're in, and I want to stay away from that as far as I possibly can. This is why I quit Netflix. In fact, it's because the amount of violence in it, and the amount of evil that's portrayed, exaggerated evil, I call it. I just don't want to focus on that at all. So they bring it all the way down to that, and then they kind of leave it there, right? It's the theme is pretty dark. It's a pretty depressing theme that they run themselves into as they converse. And then I like the quote Joe makes. He says, "The way the mind works." So he's done so much study, and he's really quite knowledgeable. And but I like the way he says that. It's just kind of funny. And then wondering whether we're redeemable. That was a great question, right? Are we redeemable from this tendency towards narcissistic behavior? I would, of course, say yes, we are. We can come out of that. They talked about shamanism. They talked a lot about the psychedelic drugs. And it's funny because I could see where Campbell was looking for a way out of the conversation and an escape from narcissism by appealing to the spiritual, including prayer. And Joe kind of put him on the spot with this question about religious experience and things like that. And so it wasn't able to get off the ground because it felt like there was a lack of synergy between the two guests. Campbell was a little more on the spiritual prayer side. Joe was more on the, you could say, jujitsu and DMT, and he didn't seem to catch on to what Campbell was really trying to get at, which might have made for another 15 minutes, might have made for a redemption of the topic, for, as a how we can, or examples, even if they had brought up examples of people that had been somehow cured or redeemed from narcissism. That would have made a very interesting. But overall, a great podcast, worth listening to. I liked it and got a lot out of it, actually. Like I said, first podcast since the new studio that I kept on the regular speed. So definitely entertainment. Excellent. 10 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.